So I've just come back from the gym and I thought I would do a quick video because this concept has kind of like popped into my head in the last 24 hours. And it's an interesting one where sometimes you can be confronted by your own defense mechanisms that you didn't actually realize were there. And it's not because you're ignorant. Sorry, that's my laptop doing a really loud update. But when you're working on yourself, you're working through certain things and then other things don't become as obvious to you. And I've been reflecting on the fact that I have this kind of situation in which I have protective walls that I didn't really understand were there, and anytime they feel threatened, they kind of come up. And it's kind of centered around the idea for me, I think, that I'd rather take control of when something ends or doesn't. So I was quite upset a few months back because I'd kind of had comments about how in dating I can kind of have self-sabotage behaviour, and I have a tendency to want to shut things down before they've even started, or pick holes or things like that. And I found that really triggering. I felt that was really unfair because I've been trying to look for somebody who wants to put effort into me, and I just thought it was an excuse not to put effort into me. But I've kind of reflected and realised that actually there is a valid point there, and I think the valid point is that when you're somebody who's felt unsafe growing up emotionally, you scrabble for safety, and knowing where you stand is a really important thing. And I think we all have an element of self-protection, but I think some of us who are kind of ultra independent do that by shutting people out because rejection is horrendous. And when you can control the rejection, you can say, okay, that's fine, we'll just end that there then. You have an element of not allowing it to fester, but also this period of uncertainty when you're in a talking stage or when you're dating people or whatever. For those of us who've grown up in being hyper vigilant because we haven't really had a safety, that drives us insane. And I had not anticipated or understood until very recently that in between, that waiting brings up all kinds of insecurities. And I think I used to be really triggered when people said to me, oh, you just need to be chill and just see how it goes, because I was interpreting it as, that's you saying you don't want to put any effort in. That's you already wanting a pass to doing the bare minimum, and I've just got to be here and sit and chill and take it. But I think there's an element of the reason I get told to chill is because I do not chill during that period of time. I catastrophize what could happen, and any uncertainty for me is always a no. I don't give it space to breathe. I automatically say, okay, that's a no, that's a rejection, that's a no. They don't like you, they're not interested, that's a no. And I hadn't really realised until the last couple of months that that's what I do. So begrudgingly, at the time I didn't like to be told that I have self-sabotagey behaviour, but they might have a point. And so the first step when you have this kind of realisation that your behaviour itself might not be the healthiest is acknowledging it. At the moment I know where it's come from. It's come from that need to feel safe. And I know it's not a desirable quality, and I know it probably is impacting what I want moving forward. So I'm in the acceptance phase, and eventually I have to move to a kind of accepting that I need to change that behaviour and how to do that. But it is quite scary because you've had decades of building up behaviour that even your own conscious mind didn't realise that you were doing as self-preservation. And so it's quite scary to take that layer off and be vulnerable. And for me, the hardest thing is to be patient. I'm incredibly impatient. I like to control where something's going. I do expect rejection. I brace for rejection in work and in relationships. So that's probably going to take a while to sit in the uncomfortability of letting something play out before I try and close it down or be self-deprecating about myself. So yeah, I just thought I would share this because sometimes it's not comfortable. It's really uncomfortable to admit that there's something about yourself that you don't like, but it's there, and someone's raised it and you've been triggered, and then you've sat with it and realised, actually, yeah, I do keep doing this and maybe I should change that behaviour. So I thought, in the spirit of sharing, if I shared mine, maybe for those of you who are working on yourselves, don't beat yourself up when you find that thing that really upset you, that someone said really upset you because it hit home a little bit, or it resonated with you, or you feel like it was probably a bit too accurate. It's okay that we have faults, and part of growing is kind of sitting in the uncomfortability of knowing that there's something about you that you wish you didn't have. You know, your stubbornness, or your too strong cut-off game, or your sulky behaviour, or whatever it is. You can acknowledge it's there and then take small steps to think, if I want to change it, how do I want to change it? Rome wasn't built in a day. You're not going to suddenly turn around and go, now I know this thing, it's never going to happen again. But realising you are triggered by these certain things, why you're triggered, and how you can try and soothe yourself through it. Because I think what my issue has always been is I've wanted a person to pick me. So I've been creating these subconscious, like not consciously doing it, but putting tests, and I wasn't really aware I was doing it, but it was almost for them to step up, and then they don't know what you're doing, so then in your eyes they failed that test because they haven't stepped up in the way in your imaginary head you would like them to, and so you're recreating this narrative that people don't get you. But for them, they're like, wow, that, you know, you've put a lot of tests. I don't know what I'm meant to be doing. I thought I was doing what was right, but it's not your perceived idea of what's right. So untangling that is going to be a long process. But when you recognise that, you can take some ownership that this pattern is happening for a reason. It's not because you're a bad person, but it's because you need to reflect on, how do you change this dynamic? Not necessarily how does the other person fix the dynamic, but how do you step up and change the dynamic and heal the dynamic so that you don't keep repeating it. So I hope this helps.